a resolution so that we don't get in trouble later. We want to avoid trouble. The problem is, while God's plan for our world is that all creation would live in His peace and His justice and His grace, He has not promised that our lives would turn out exactly the way that we hope. He has not promised that our lives would go exactly the way that we want. In fact, when God came into the world in the person of Jesus Christ, He told us something very different about what we would face in this life and about what He has done about that and what He continues to do about that. This morning we're looking at a passage from the Bible, and it's found in John chapter 16. Most of you have heard of Jesus' Last Supper, ever immortalized through Da Vinci's painting. I think we got a picture of it. And it's called the Last Supper for a very simple reason, because it is the last meal that Jesus enjoyed with His closest friends, His most loyal followers, who are called disciples. It was His last supper He enjoyed with them before He died on the cross. And of course, Jesus knew what lay ahead for Him. He knew what Judas was going to do, one of the disciples. He knew what was coming. And during the meal, He wanted to impress upon His closest followers how cherished and important that time together that they had was. And as they shared this final meal, Jesus makes a profound statement, a profound resolution, if you will, about what life would be like for them, His followers, after His crucifixion and death and resurrection. And He makes that in verses 32 and 33, which I'll read. Jesus says, "A time is coming and has come when you will be scattered, each of you to his own home. You will leave me all alone. Yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Now, one of my favorite lines in any movie is the main character's climactic finale speech. You know the one I'm talking about. Mel Gibson in Braveheart when he shouts, "Freedom!" Or Harrison Ford in Air Force One when he says, "Get off my plane." Yeah, you guys know it. They're the best, right? Well, here Jesus makes His main climactic final statement for His disciples, His closest followers, and how does He inspire them? What words does He use? Well, we can read them because they're included here. He says, "In this world you will have trouble." Now, obviously, Jesus didn't consult with His speechwriter that day. Someone should have said something to Jesus like, you should tell Him, "Nothing's going to stop you now, right? Once I do this, life is going to work out for all of you, and not only you, but others as well." But He doesn't say this. He says, "In this world, you will have trouble." And so the question that we should be asking, I think, is, well, what does Jesus mean by trouble? Because whenever I hear the word trouble, I think back to my childhood, and I think about being in trouble, which was oftentimes a result of bad choices that I made. This week I read about a 9-year-old boy from Texas who moved with his family up to Washington State, to Tacoma. And this young boy was so desperate to get back to Texas, they couldn't beat the Texas out of this kid, that he actually went and stole his now new neighbor's car that was idling in his driveway, 9 years old, was chased by police at up to 90 miles an hour, crashed the car but somehow lived and escaped police custody, got himself to an airport, snuck through security with a discarded Southwest Airlines ticket stub. He then boarded a plane to San Antonio, where finally he was caught trying to make a connecting flight to Dallas. Now, I'm not the boy's father, thankfully. But I'll wager that he was in trouble as a result of those bad choices that he made. But here in John 16, Jesus isn't talking about that kind of trouble. The word John uses here is the Greek word thalipsis. Everyone say it with me. Thalipsis. We can do better than that. I think it's even up there. There. One more time. Thalipsis. That sounded good. Thlipsis is the kind of trouble that is unavoidable. The kind of trouble that is inescapable in life as we know it. The things that happen to us in daily life that annoy us and frustrate us and cause us pain, like traffic jams that we get stuck in on our way to Grandma's house. Delayed flights during Christmas season. Incorrect billing. That's all of us in about 2 weeks. Household appliances that break down, or furnaces that break down at the least opportune time. To have thlipsis is to feel the pressures and pains of the world literally pressing down on you like extra gravity. Like extra gravity. Anyone here ever experienced thlipsis in life? A few of you. I think all of you have, really. The result of this is kind of a spiritual gravity that draws us, pulls us away from God and from His character. And those of you who try to follow Jesus in life know what that's like. I'll give a few examples. When you go to work, there's a gravity that pulls you toward greed and ambition and deception. Or when you're with your spouse or your significant other, there's a gravity that pulls you toward self-absorption and selfishness. When you're walking past the marble slab creamery in the mall here, there's a gravity that draws you toward the double dark chocolate ice cream. And to resist that will cause pressure. Thlipsis. In this world which is bent and therefore pulls you away from God, you will have trouble. You'll feel pressed upon at times. It may be at work, it may be in your marriage or at school or in some other important relationship, but it's real. And here Jesus says, follower or not, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It's kind of like Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, who decides one day to accept Jesus' invitation to walk on water. He gets out of the boat, and I think he's thinking that this faith in Jesus thing is pretty all right? Until he notices the storm and the fact that he's walking on a body of water where many have perished and drowned, and he's like, holy thlipsis. And he starts to sink. Actually, I don't think Peter knew Greek, but anyway. I entitled today's talk, Faith for a New Year, but this week I came across a message title on this passage by a pastor named Scott Scruggs, and I think his title's better. So let's just cross out mine and put this one in. His title is, Why Faith Won't Feel Like It's Working. Why Faith Won't Feel Like It's Working. Because if we're to be people of faith, which is my invitation to you this morning, then we need to get over the mistaken idea that Jesus should somehow lead us to a life without trouble. We've got to just get rid of that idea altogether. When Jesus says that in this world we will have trouble, He gives us the dignity of being honest to us. And He confronts us also with the fact that life will not always go the way that we hope. It won't always go the way that we want or plan. And it's critical for us to accept this now at the start of a new year, because if we don't, then come the first sign of trouble, we're going to cash in on our faith and we're going to look for something else that works. And then we're going to be disappointed with that eventually as well. In this world, you will have trouble. There will be thlipsis. But thankfully, while Jesus insists that we start there, He doesn't insist that we end there. Verse 33. Take heart. I have overcome the world.